Good afternoon, and welcome to everyone who is joining us here in the room as well. It should make you feel good out there in the rest of the world that today it's your turn, and those who are listening here have to keep their mouth shut. Okay. We will go right into the first question.
The first question we have is from Virginia. She asks, Raj, should I quit nursing to pursue a full-time art career? Thank you.
Just a moment. No, it's not time yet. It should not be done until the avenue for doing it is available. I know that sometimes it feels as though if you're willing to take a radical leap, everything will work out. That if you invest 100% maximum faith, everything will work out. But I'm going to tell you something. It doesn't work that way. You should not take advantage of that course unless it's forced upon you. Unfoldment, development, growth always occurs naturally and with underlying support, if I may put it that way. It will always be a natural transition. Indeed, you need to be moving in the direction of leaving the nursing profession and engaging in your art career full time. But instead of looking for radical change, I encourage you to be sensitive to and willing to let it unfold gradually and in a way that will not cause you great fear. The movement and unfoldment of your fulfillment will always be kind, will always be experienced as kind when you let go of control and let it unfold to you. That's the end of the answer. If you have a yes but, submit it to Chris and I will respond to it.
The next question we have is from Connie. She says, thanks, Raj. At 5 years old, my youngest son had a nightmare where he killed every human being on earth. He seems to carry this level of guilt with him almost always. This week, he made the first conscious move to change this deep self-hatred. We want to know why he is so consumed with guilt and what is he always afraid of. He feels perhaps if he knows the cause, he feels, perhaps, that if he knows the cause, he might be able to let it go more easily. Thank you.
I know it always feels like the best way to correct a problem is to look for the bad apple in the basket of apples. The problem is that he's not looking for what is the truth about him. You know, no matter what any of your problems are that you perceive, it's the answer that negates the problem that you want to go for. And so you need, all of you, to be giving to your attention to what is the truth about you. I'm constantly confronting you with the fact that each of you is the Christ, that each of you is, at this moment, the pure, direct expression of God. I do this to let you know that there is an alternative to the way you're perceiving yourself at the moment, as a human being in the human condition, with all of the accompanying dissonances, stresses, fears, etc. I could spend centuries telling you techniques to handle all of the distresses. But what you need is the truth that will relieve you of the tendency to be subject to stress, to be subject to problems. And the answer lies in a better determination of who and what you are, than that you are just a human being in the human condition. What causes the degree of hate that finds or wants to find expression in your son is the fact that he's not tapping into and not giving his attention to the fact that the very substance of his being is love. And he's not looking for all the ways there are to let that love out into expression. He's putting his weight on the wrong side of the scale by trying to understand why there is so much hate, why there is so much darkness. Until he turns toward the light, he won't find the darkness absent from his experience, you see. You don't heal the darkness. You don't manipulate the darkness. You turn to the light. And in the light there is no darkness, you see? So many of you are engaged in coping with your problems, using the truth that you're learning to cope with them better, instead of opening up to the discovery that your very being, for lack of better words, is light, and in it there is no darkness. the answer is for him to make commitment to finding his capacity to love and letting it out into expression more and more completely. And he needs to do this with commitment, with resolve, so that he remains true to it rather than slipping back into the old habits. You see, all of you are having to learn to distinguish between what works and what doesn't, and then make the choice for what does, instead of studying what doesn't and finding ways to cope with what doesn't. I will have more to say about this, but that's the answer. And you're right, he is at a turning point. Where he can discern the difference, and because he is discerning the difference, he can make a choice for what works instead of being preoccupied with what doesn't. Okay.
We have a question from Orinda. She asks, "Hello again, Raj. As you know, this past year, I've been blessed with many gentle shifts of perception. How I see my body, daily work activities, and especially my relationship with Ian. So you could say I've been content to just enjoy the new level of relief and peace that this has brought me. But lately, I'm feeling some old doubts resurfacing, like reminders that I'm not home free yet. Specifically, that looks like the baby eczema still itching my ears. And then a few days ago, when that lady called to board and use space in my home to do her energy healing work, letting doubts about my own non-visible healing work in the world prevent me from getting a clear answer from Spirit, with a capital S, as to whether or not it was appropriate. But I haven't listened to you all of these years without knowing that all disturbances are my conscious or unconscious refusal to acknowledge God's will for me, which is only ever complete peace and joy. Considering then my absolute dedication and love of knowing and following God's will for me, can you tell me what I am doing or being at this time that amounts to preventing the movement of greater peace and joy as my experience? Thank you, Raj."
Well, I would say that you've been doing quite well up until what prompted this question, because you have been allowing. Now, you are letting what you see, what's going on out in the world, tempt you to doubt that you're doing well enough. It's the old ego ploy to get you back into aggressively trying to accomplish something good. It isn't that it's something good, it's that you're being tempted to be the authorizer of something, to be an agent for change. What you need to know is that you've been being an agent for change all this time up until now for the last year, where you have been flowing with and you have been in harmony with your fulfillment. You must let whatever healing work occurs, unfold on its terms, not yours. And you know what? You need to appreciate and value what you have been doing in terms of listening and allowing and getting out of the way. You have been contributing less to the dream. You have been withdrawing from joining with others who are constantly reaffirming the dream. And so you have been an agent for change. The dream has lessened. So be careful now. When the thought comes to you that you need to give a little focus to the change that you're being, so that you can finesse things with a little bit of authority that makes things happen, or brings the truth closer to the world. Eczema, of course, is an evidence of imbalance, irritating imbalance. I'll tell you something. If you want to get on the bandwagon and start making things happen for good reasons and on a good basis, you're going to find the eczema increasing. You try to bring determination and willfulness into the picture, and you're going to be sending those messengers out to your world. You're going to see more things that need to be corrected. You see? You catch that? You will see more things to be corrected when the vision of truth reveals to you less and less that needs to be corrected. Now, that doesn't mean that without any change occurring in the world, you feel that there's less and less that needs to be corrected. It means that when your focus is not on trying to be an agent for change, and you are being in the flow of what God is unfolding to you, the change occurs. Not by your design, but because you're not sending out messengers that say, oh, you need healing. I see you need healing. Oh, I see that needs healing. Oh, I see there's something wrong that needs to be corrected. What are the messengers you're sending out? Oh, I've got some eczema on my ears. I'm going to correct that. No. You better keep that you out of the picture. And you better, in the absence of willfulness, you had better, in the inner state of innocence, say, Father, this doesn't fit. I know you're not authorizing this. I know you're not providing this to me, not even for my learning. I know this doesn't come from you at all. What is the truth here? And then in the absence of assertiveness and in the presence of peace, listen. That's how you get back on the beam. That's how you get into alignment. And the more you are in alignment, the more you're on the beam, the less evidence you're going to see of the need for correction. And of course then, less need for you to be an agent for change. It's a tricky thing. I know I talk about being an agent for change, but if you'll consider what I've said before about it, you'll find that I've never ever talked about being an agent for change by design. I've never talked about being an agent for change as an activity for you to engage in. The fact is that the only way you can be an agent for change is not by conscious will, but by being on the beam, being in harmony with the Father, being in harmony with what the Father would have you be and do at any moment. Because why? Because you're not originating an idea of what to be or do. You are listening within and feeling the impulse to be or do in any given moment, just as Paul is doing right now. I'll tell you something. If Paul were trying to heal you right now, in the first place, you wouldn't be hearing me. You would be hearing him coming from his best idea of how to be a healer. And then he would be talking to you about being healed in a way that covered his you-know-what, so that you couldn't come back at him because he didn't do it well. This has nothing to do with being a healer or being an agent for change. When you're coming from the place of excellence in you, it's something you find yourself spontaneously, effortlessly, and thoughtlessly being. And when I say thoughtlessly being, I mean being without thinking about what you're being, how you're being it, whether you're doing it well enough, and on and on and on. There's an old saying, be, and by being, heal the sick. Well, how do you be? You be by feeling for the beam in you. You be by being silent, not willful, innocent in your attention, coupled with your desire to know what the truth is here in any given situation. And then you listen. You don't figure out the answer. You don't originate the answer. You listen, and then you be with the answer. Stop assuming that you're not already being the answer. And watch the egotistical tendency to want to fulfill a position of, quote, healer in the world that will be recognized by the world. You have no idea how many healings you've already contributed to this past year when you weren't apparently doing a single thing that had to do with healing, but you were letting guidance lead you in the simplest and most trivial ways. That's what I want you to stay with and not get sidetracked from. Okay.
The next question is from Paul. He asks, first of all, thank you to all, seen and unseen, for making this possible. The first question I asked you, Raj, a couple of months ago was to help determine if you were the one I was having verbal communications with in my mind. Your answer was yes, and it was no big deal, quote unquote. This question is, I have been receiving consistent guidance as to manifesting a more abundant and happy lifestyle by letting my natural state of being come forth by getting out of the way. This includes allowing what you have said in guidance, substantial financial abundance to come into my life experience for future purposes. You, assuming I am hearing rightly, have also said it is not appropriate for me to have a job at this time. Do not really want one anyways, as I seem to have lost all ambition. This guidance has been unchanging for the last 2 years at least. The problem is, I am stuck in the same place with very little change, and I am becoming despairing of ever, for lack of a better word, being successful at surrendering control so it can all unfold. Am I hearing guidance correctly? If not, I guess it makes the question pointless. If I am hearing correctly, what is my block and how can I get out of the way? Thank you.
You are hearing correctly. And it is important for you to know that. And I will tell you that your guidance is promoting the very thing that will dissolve the blocks. Very simply, you are being supported in a movement toward complete surrender. I know that the temptation is to ask, well, I don't know anybody else that's being pushed to such an extreme. Why me? Well, because that's your point of unfoldment. That's your threshold. That's your miracle in waiting, if I may put it that way. Because you can do it.